School secretaries and caretakers seeking pension and other employment rights continued strike action today with pickets placed on schools nationwide. 2 special classes for autistic children remained closed after special needs assistants, or SNAs, at one Dublin primary school refused to pass the picket at their school gates.
At schools across the country, big displays of support for school secretaries and caretakers today, with teachers and SNAs joining their colleagues on the picket line during break times. But at this school in Dublin, SNAs went further. They refused to pass the picket in the first place.
They do an amazing job and the school cannot operate without them. But also I was on a picket for a year because I worked in Debenhams. I worked in Debenhams for 22 years. So it's very, very important. We all have to stick together on this.
We have a very sad case. Margaret, our secretary from upstairs, was out sick last year and no pay. Social welfare. Like, if any of the rest of the school staff are out sick, we're all paid. They're just looking for what we have.
I was out on critical illness for 6 months and I received no pay whatsoever.
How do you feel about that?
I felt very strongly about it because other people in the department and other people that work, they actually have proper pay agreements and they have proper pay in, like, for sickness when they're off, but we have nothing like that at all.
SNAs are members of the same trade union as secretaries and caretakers. That trade union, Fórsa, has made it very clear that they have no mandate to strike, that they should be in school today, but SNAs here have ignored that.
Lisa Hanley's daughter is autistic. Her special class was one of 2 at the school shut today because of the SNA's action.
Well, yeah, they have to all stick together. As a school, as a unit, as a community, they all stick together. And that's what we're all about, like, you know.
What would you say to parents who would say, look, this is about children and those children deserve to be in school today, they need school?
Oh, they absolutely do. I actually have 2 autistic children myself, so I do understand how autistic children need the routine. But we also have to, you know, show our support to the secretaries and the caretakers who, you know, this is about their livelihood and, you know, their retirement.
The secretary and caretaker strike continues. Emma O'Kelly, RTE News, Cabra in Dublin.
Now, pension parity with other school workers is what school secretaries and caretakers want. Despite talks at the WRC last week, the department and union positions were deemed to be too far apart. Now, around 2,600 workers who are members of the trade union Fórsa are striking indefinitely. Andy Pike, Head of Education with that trade union, is here. Thank you for coming in to speak to us this evening. Andy, there was a deal done in 2022 with secretaries. It put them onto the public service payroll. It also gave them some entitlements. And a similar deal was promised for caretakers. So why 3 years on are they striking?
Well, the deal for caretakers was to mirror the pay agreement for secretaries. That simply hasn't been implemented. It should have been in place long ago. The problem at the moment is that the agreement signed in 2022 didn't cover pensions. It doesn't mention pensions. We couldn't get pensions for school secretaries or caretakers anywhere near the negotiations. So the inequality persists in that a school secretary or caretaker retires after 40 years service in a school, perhaps, with no occupational pension, whereas a teacher and SNA in the same school receive the normal public service pension entitlements. It is true to say that all a secretary is entitled to is a bunch of flowers when they retire, and our members have simply had enough of it.
And what would that pension be worth to them financially? And without it, what are they facing?
Well, the pension would be relatively modest because it's based on your earnings and your length of service at the point of retirement. So given they're all low-paid workers, it would be a help, but it's a small pension. It's not a huge ask. It's not a gold-plated pension, as one might think of a well-off person receiving. It's a very modest pension that they're looking for.
This strike started last Thursday. You say it's an indefinite strike. Some SNAs who are also members of the trade union Fórsa have decided not to pass the picket, and it has led to disruption, mostly in special classes and special schools where they're there to help children. They say it's important to stick together, but you don't want them on the picket line. Why not?
Well, we don't think it necessarily helps the campaign. We understand the strength of feeling that's out there across the whole school community, in local communities, and with the public more widely supporting what the secretaries and caretakers are trying to do. But only the secretaries and caretakers were balloted for industrial action. So I came on RTE News on Friday afternoon and was very, very clear in an interview that we don't want SNAs taking industrial action. We think it would be damaging if that were to continue, because the focus then becomes on them not passing the picket or them taking unofficial industrial action, rather than the issue we want the public to focus on, which is the lack of pensions and good conditions of employment for secretaries and caretakers.
Some people say, surely you would have expected that to happen, SNAs not to pass the post and that, or to pass the picket, and that maybe this is a tactic.
No, it's not a tactic. We've always been very clear in every statement we've made that we want SNA members to be out loud and proud supporting their colleagues, but to do it before school starts, at lunchtime and when school closes. This is becoming a distraction. It's not a tactic. We've always been clear that it's the secretaries and the caretakers who would be on strike, nobody else. And we've clarified that really, really clearly. Where we've seen problems, for instance, in special schools, we intervened over the weekend. So the problems that were reported last week have gone. We've resolved them. But look, this is inevitable when you're trying to run and conduct an industrial dispute with 2 people in a school, and there are 60 working there. All the rest of their colleagues want to support them. So it's not surprising, but it certainly isn't a tactic, and it's something we would ask SNAs not to do. We've given them clear advice. Support your colleagues at the start of the day and at lunchtime. That's it.
In the absence of secretaries doing administrative work like payroll or caretakers looking after things like waste, it is inevitable that schools might have to close. Are you prepared for that? Is that where this is going?
That's not the objective, but if you remove the secretary and the caretaker from the school cannot function as it normally would. It's inevitable that the problems, such as collecting the rubbish, will pile up. The administrative tasks that secretaries have to do, liaison with the Department of Education, won't happen. And over time, that does compromise the ability of the school to function properly. Look, what's needed to resolve this is really simple. We need the government to give us a position. We were in the WRC on Wednesday. They said nothing to us. They said nothing to the WRC that indicates what their view is. Since then, we've had radio silence from both ministers. We don't know what the government's position might be. All they need to do to stop this strike is to enter into an agreement that gives us a commitment to discuss how and when school secretaries and caretakers will be brought into the fair public service pension framework that applies to all of their colleagues in the same school.
And if they don't?
Well, if they don't, the strike continues. Our members voted 98% in favour of taking an indefinite strike. And if we think about the radio silence and the lack of a response from government from the first day, it was clear they were right, because a one-day strike wouldn't have got us anywhere. Our members are telling us they will continue to take strike action until they secure an acceptable outcome. And our job in Fórsa is to support them, give them the platform to do that. It is difficult within the narrow confines of 2 people in a school to do that, but we will pursue this, and we think they have a very good case, and we'd be reasonably confident that they can win if the public support them, and if the TDs from government parties, who over the years have made promises to them, if they can deliver that support when it really matters.
OK, Andy Pike from the trade union Fórsa, thank you for coming in to speak to us.